Thank you for staying tuned to Morning Express. Now, today we're bringing you your favorite segment of A Person of Interest, which is in line with the International Women's Day. Now, this year's theme is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. So we have brought to you a very ideal guest, the Deputy Governor for Nyeri, Caroline Karugu, who's going to give us insight of what it's like to be a woman in leadership, the challenges, the benefits, how she is working to help her community, and as well get a little sneak peek into who she really is. Thank you for joining us, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so I'll just start off with a cliche question.
Yes.
Who is Caroline Karugu?
Oh, wow. How much time do we have for this show?
Yes, go ahead. A whole hour.
Well, thank you, Trix. I am, first of all, a mother, which is, you know, pretty much the most expensive jewel on my crown. I am mother to a beautiful 13-year-old daughter named after my mother. Her name is Wajiko. And, you know, that, like I said, is my most proud achievements. Apart from that, I am, like you said, Deputy Governor of Nyeri County. I also happen to be chair of the Deputy Governors Forum. And a few other things, you know, that I do. I am a Christian, a Catholic, and you know, there's a lot more that you learn about me as we speak. But I think most importantly is that I am a mother, and therefore you will see a lot of my decisions and a lot of my, you know, trends in life really start from the motherly outlook.
And you left out the most important, I do believe, or the one that everyone knows you for, being the Deputy Governor.
Right.
You're a woman in leadership, and we'll get into all that. But at the same time, I'd like to know from the inception, what sort of child were you?
Oh, wow. Wow. And it's interesting you ask that, because it's a question that's been asked very often since I became Deputy Governor. And I'm sure my story has been highlighted, especially during the late President Moi's funeral. You know, I gave a sneak peek of my kind of childhood. I'm brought up in a very regular family, extremely regular, with very stern and strict parents, both my mother and father. In fact, my daughter was asking me today, who did you prefer between your mother and father? And I racked my mind and I said both of them were quite tough. You know, my father was really no nonsense, and my mother, being a Nyeri woman, also, you know, doesn't suffer fools. So pretty much regular upbringing in the village. I come from a village called Nyerivo in Nyeri County. My mother is from Odaya, my father is from Madeira, and they settled, you know, in Nyeri town in a small little village called Nyerivo, where grew up, regular nursery school, went to Nyeri Primary School, then later went to Chinga, which is still within Nyeri County, and then I came to Nairobi, like a lot of other people.
You're pressing the fast forward button.
Yes.
I'd like to know, what did they do, your parents, and perhaps as a child, in terms of your talents, your personality, what stood out from their perspective? I'm sure you've heard the stories, or from your own perspective, as a child looking out in your environs. What were the things that stood out to you? What were you interested in? Okay,
great. So if you look, I mean, you're taking me way back. So born 1978, and when I was born, I was actually supposed to be named Cecilia, after my mother's mother, and who was named after Saint Cecilia, a saint that, like, if you're a Catholic, you would relate to this, a saint that really liked to sing and was a happy-go-lucky kind of a person. So it matched my personality. But of course, my big sister had an issue with the name Cecilia for whatever reason.
Okay.
So I was named Caroline, and really a daddy's girl. Growing up, I was extremely close to my father, pretty much because I'm a spitty image of my daddy. I look more like my daddy than my mother. I mean, I know my mother is going to forgive me for this, but it is what it is. So daddy's girl, grew up happy-go-lucky, and I guess that even is what exposed me to the opportunity of meeting His Excellency President Moi, because I remember this day when we were all asked, you know, we were all asked to get off the bus and, go for interviews of who will, meet President Moi.
Yeah.
And the interviews were conducted by the commandant of the then Kiganjo Police College, what is now the National Police College, Kiganjo. And for whatever reason, I just didn't seem to panic, and I am selected to meet the president. I was extremely excited. I was so excited, I didn't see why people were fearful about the opportunity, And we hit it off with President Moi. He, for whatever reason, really liked the fact that I was bold enough to ask him, questions like...
Do you remember any of the questions?
Yes, how does it feel to be president? So you have all this motorcade, can I ride with you?
Yeah.
So pretty much just those childish questions that, showed that I wasn't petrified about him, because the truth is those days Moi was really feared.
Yes.
And so to find this young girl who wasn't that petrified to be around him, I think was very refreshing to him. And the following year he did ask to meet me again, and that is when we spoke about academics, and I was very honest about what I like and what I don't like in school. And so, we hit it off, and he was very keen to know how I would perform academically. And he was all about education. And I say this boldly and fearlessly that I wouldn't be where I am in terms of education had it not been for the late president. Even for, just, heaping the importance of a good education on my mind. And now I'm one of the people who are called the perpetual or career students, people who are always in school, some sort of school or the other. So regular upbringing, like I said, and pretty much... I wasn't top of my class, I must say. I wasn't in primary school, I wasn't top of my class. But also I come from a family and parents that really do not, they won't take things like you giving up, lying down. They always encouraged you, this time around you didn't do well in math, you must work harder. And really, so they never put me down. My parents never put me down, even for failing. And then, so as I progressed on into high school, I saw my grades improve. And as I even went to do my first degree, my grades got better. My master's degree, to the point that at my PhD, I was actually ranking top 3 in my class.
Wow.
So it's really incrementally been, that struggle of saying I'm not going to give up. I might not be the best in class, but I am willing to learn and improve and, just beat my personal best.
Yes, and being a woman in leadership, that assertiveness that you showed as a child, do you think that was an element of your future showing itself at that young age? Or at one point do you remember recognizing or someone recognizing the leader in you?
I think it started from a very young age. Just being affirmed by my parents, being affirmed by my community, and being given chances to lead, like the youth groups in my village. When I went to high school, on the very first day, I was made overall prefect for the entire, I think there were 3 classes. Wow. So I was the overall prefect in charge of ensuring everybody has a uniform. And I went on, I was a prefect throughout, high school. When I went to university as well, I got into students associations like the Communication Students Association, the Commerce Students Association, and I took active leadership roles. So I think it comes from how you bring up your child. And and to this I want to speak to parents, because I know parents who have ruined their children's personality just by not affirming them and by saying distasteful things like you're never going to make it, you're weak in this. Let's encourage our children, let's affirm them, and in that affirmation, as they grow older, they get to discover themselves and they get to live boldly and fearlessly.
And take up space.
Yeah. Yes.
You're a woman that has surely taken up space in various areas, and we're going to get into that.
Right.
But then there's academia, there's academics, there is leadership. What else were you gravitating to in terms of hobbies, maybe games or clubs when you were in high school?
Well, I must say I wasn't really the extracurricular kind of a person. I didn't play any game like seriously. I did a little bit of badminton in high school, but in high school I was more studious than anything else. I wasn't in, like in drama school or whatever. I really wanted to excel, and I think it had been put in my mind that the only way to excel was education. But that doesn't mean that I'm not a social being. I am, by all means, a type A extrovert. And I like to host a lot. I like to bring people into my house and, just sit, have teas and coffees and, just talk about our various things that we're facing. And I have a very close knit of friends, a small unit of girlfriends. Yes. And I like to host them, and we do what we call checkathons, where we just laugh about, some of them are in banking, some are in business, and we just unwind. So that does not mean that I'm not a social. I'm a social being.
Yeah, and speak to us to the importance of the people, of women you surround yourself as as a woman.
You know what they say, that if you surround yourself with five people who lack vision, you'll be the sixth one.
Okay.
If you surround yourself with 5 top achievers, you'll be the 6th top achiever. So your circle is extremely important. And I know it's cliche because everybody talks about it. Yeah. But what I have seen, as you grow older, you realize that not everybody will be your friend. We had so many friends growing up in high school, and I'm sure you can relate to that. But as you grow older, you realize you're not walking the same journey, and you must make a personal decision to say, this is who I will allow in my inner circle, because they encourage me, because they challenge me. And it's always good, and I have found myself in spaces where for instance, in the field of academia, my friends in the field of academia are all professors. I'm the only doctor, and they're like, you need to start publishing. Wow. Carol, we want to see your papers online. You need to take up a lecturing job, because soon we want you to be professor. And that keeps me going academically. So your circle of friends, you're as good as your circle of friends.
As a woman, particularly.
Yes.
And given that, of course, society is hard on you as a woman in leadership, talk to us about perhaps the challenges that you have faced as you go through academia and even in leadership as a woman, just by virtue of being female. What are some of the challenges you have seen?
Oh, wow. There are a plethora of challenges for women in leadership. Most of them are sociocultural. Most of them are, you can relate them to how we are socialized as Africans, to believe that a woman cannot, and there is no space for leadership, when it comes to women. And if you are seen to sort of be an assertive woman, from where I come from, they begin to call you Angwa Makeri, you want to sit on men, and all manner of distasteful sort of language. But the battle for women and the journey for women in leadership has been walked by very, very many women. And those of us who are in leadership, like myself, stand on shoulders of fantastic women who made great strides and sacrificed their careers. The Professor Wangari Maathai, the Mother Carols, women who have stood the Charity Ngilus, women who have stood, and fought certain battles that sometimes almost made them pay the ultimate price. Yes. So we stand on their shoulders. And, I like Governor Anway Guru. She keeps telling me, all we are doing is creating a crack on the glass ceiling, and it's up to the younger women to shatter it and go, far. Because what we do is really just create paths as women, and also carry other women with us. But the fights are real. I will tell you. I was just sharing it with somebody else just yesterday, and saying, when you're a woman in leadership, you will see that the men in leadership will easily team up against you, and because women at the top and women in leadership are very few and far between, every one of us is fighting something, is having a battle on the ground, and therefore we don't form a very solid support structure for each other as women in leadership in this country. Not because we don't want to, not because we're not capable, but everybody is fighting their own small fights.
Battles,
So everybody is so engrossed in it that, you know, by the time you free your mind and say we must come together and fight for so-and-so, it becomes, you know, it becomes close to impossible. But having said that, you know, I must appreciate the fact that we have made great strides, you know, and appreciable efforts have been made in terms of creating spaces for women, and which is why I am pro BBI myself, because I see the BBI creating a constitutional dispensation that is favorable for women. You know, by fostering, for instance, Article 43 on your, you know, social and economic rights, especially for women, things that matter to us, like water, things like social security, things like access to affordable healthcare. So if we can have this spaces anchored in the Constitution, it's going to be a very big win. The 2/3 gender role, you have seen the circus around it. You know,
that's my next question, because these things might be anchored in the Constitution, and we might talk about them until we turn blue. But when it comes to goodwill, political goodwill, and like you said, women are fighting their own battles, and there's this you know, imagination or saying, I don't know how true it is from your side, that we are our own worst enemies. So as we face this sort of societal issues or setups, how do you survive as a woman, and at the same time, how do you survive as a female leader in those very tumultuous moments?
Great. First of all, I'm not surprised there is no political goodwill on matters women, because we are a minority. And politics is a game of numbers. And therefore you don't expect goodwill from the opposite sex. You'd be quite, you know, foolhardy to expect that 100% goodwill. And that is the reason why we have moved these conversations from just speaking about it and having an activist, you know, gender equity started from a very activist point of view, to the point that a woman who was agitating for something was labeled, quote unquote, a gender activist or feminist or whatever, to anchoring them. You see, when it's a constitutional issue, you know, it's got to be done. And one of the things that BBI is doing is also strengthening political parties and giving them incentives for those that will be fronting, you know, and supporting a lot more women into, you know, leadership positions. And I am a member of the Jubilee Party, and just recently I was having a discussion, you know, with the SG about how we can strengthen, you know, for instance, you know, the women movement in Jubilee, and ensure that we have structures that even nurture women in the grassroots who want to, for instance, vie for positions in 2022. How can they be supported? So I can see a lot more of these conversations coming to life post BBI, because now it's a constitutional issue. Otherwise, if we, you know, just sit and wait, I can tell you it's never going to happen.
And when it comes to women and political parties making the atmosphere conducive for them, do you foresee a point where we get to where we're having political parties nurturing this talent for leadership and this desire to be in politics to come all the way from a younger age and coming up? What can be done to ensure that happens?
I think a few things, you know, can be done. One thing is, in this country and in our curriculum, we do not have leadership development from a very young age, which I think is a huge gap. I think we need to get, you know, the curriculum to have space to develop leadership, you know, even from the elementary level, where, you know, you're able to, you know, look at, and I think that is what I think they're trying to do with the CBC, trying to see what are the strengths of different children and nurture them, and sort of, you know, drive them towards a trajectory of being a leader in whatever your talent, you know, your talent in. And I think that's very, very important, because we see nurturing of leadership coming as a more tertiary conversation. We start going for leadership units in university. And sometimes not even in your bachelor's. Sometimes it comes in your master's. Like for me, when I had to choose my PhD, there was a choice between finance, leadership. So sometimes it comes very late into your midlife years. So I think it's a conversation that can be brought down to the elementary level. And but like I said, a lot of it also comes from home. Leaders are made at home and in the house, and a lot of it is actually in the hands of women to nurture your child from home and affirm this child.
Okay. Now, as we talk about that, I'd like to know your perspective on the idea. Might be wrong, might be true, and you are behind on the other side of this, so you would know better. Does it mean that a woman, in order to succeed in politics, in leadership, does it mean that they have to hang on to the coattails of a man so that they can literally pull them into?
The truth is, as ashamed as I am about saying this, that has been the truth about the past. That you had to sort of have a godfather or something, or someone to protect you, because the battles of a woman will get nasty, and
you might need someone.
You will need that testosterone protection, sort of that comes with men. But that is the past, and we're edging a lot of that conversation out as we create safer spaces for women, and as we enlarge the spaces for women, women in leadership. But that has been, unfortunately, the case for a very long time. And you've been hearing, especially this conversation has come to life with the BBI, where they're saying we will no longer have girlfriends nominated. These girlfriends are girlfriends to men, So that is going to end by BBI being able to pick women who actually have a passion to serve and transform the lives of the people and are ready to put themselves out there, into an elective environment.
What then would you say to a young girl who might be watching us, who thinks that it's a dirty game? First of all, there's also that fear that I might need protection. So what do you say to a young girl who has those ambitions, has the leadership talent in them, but then they're just afraid because of that notion that politics is a filthy game?
I would tell the young girl who is afraid of the political space that they are afraid with good reason. Okay. Politics does get dirty.
You're not
in fact,
going to lie to
will. I'm not going to sit here and mislead them. It does get dirty, and it will get dirty, and you need to come into the space knowing that either you're ready to grow the thick skin, or you already have the thick skin. But I also want to tell that young girl that we have walked footsteps ahead of them, and therefore it's going to be easier to carry them along as our baby sisters. And that is what I like about the Kenyan movements, that the older ladies are able to call you and just tell you, I know what you're going through, I read it in the newspapers, and I just want to tell you that we all went through this. It's take it in stride. So we're all there to support them, but then they shouldn't come in with a princess attitude that everything is going to be fine and all I need to do is be beautiful and smile. No. It gets nasty, and they should be ready for that. But another thing that I like about where we're going with women issues is, for instance, in the BBI, there is a clause about protecting women against sexual and gender-based violence, especially around the electioneering period. I think is it yesterday or day before when we had the by-elections, you saw a woman being hauled out. They said she was a fake IEBC person, and I don't even care what wrong she had done. But some of the distasteful language I heard in that clip really made me very, very, very sad. But there's light at the end of the tunnel. Now we have it in the Constitution that we will not take those gender and sexual-based violence, especially, we're not going to take it lying down, especially around the electioneering, period. So we have come from far, and I think our best days are still ahead in terms of matters women in leadership.
Okay, and so with exposure to all this misogyny and sexism, even in just the corporate world, everywhere, it's everywhere. How has this influenced how you raise your own daughter?
Yes, and I was sharing this with you before we started the show. Being exposed to public life and into politics has made me that much more cautious about how I bring up my daughter. And I think even borderline paranoid.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being honest. Borderline, paranoid about the spaces that I allow my daughter into.
Yes.
And who is with my daughter. I think because now I am alive to the issues of sexual-based violence and gender-based violence, especially, for the young girls. So that has affected it in that I don't know whether it's positive or negative, but now I'm that much more aware, and it's also something that I would like to the parents who are raising young girls to be alive to a lot of issues of what's going on in school. Be able to track your child. Don't just be the kind of person. I see a lot of people taking their children, teenage children, and for whatever reason just putting them in school so that you see them once in 3 months. I think it's important to have sort of day-to-day tracking of how especially the girl child is doing, and creating an environment that she can actually open up to you. So my daughter is actually if you saw my daughter and I conversing, we're like friends, we're like girlfriends. We talk about pretty much
openness.
Yes, there's that openness. So she's going to tell me there's this and I don't like, there's this boy did this and this was. So that environment, creating that environment where you can have an honest and open conversation with the girl child is also extremely important, and even the boy child, and which is where men must really step up.
Yes, and do their part.
Yes.
Now, on that note, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more insights into the life of the Deputy Governor for Nyeri, Caroline Karugu. Do stay tuned.